कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, अरे कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो। साहब मिले सबूरी में, अरे साहब मिले सबूरी में, मन लागो यार फकीरी में, मन लागो यार फकीरी में।
One thing they say is obtained from Vidya, another they say from Avidya. Thus we have heard from the wise who have taught us this. He who is aware that both Vidya and Avidya should be pursued together overcomes death through ignorance, which is Avidya, overcomes death through Avidya, and obtains immortality through Vidya. The text here has used the word ignorance for Avidya, which is not quite proper. Alright, what is this whole business of Vidya and Avidya? What does that have to do with overcoming death and obtaining immortality? Knowledge is knowledge. Be it any kind of knowledge, it is just knowledge. But the human mind has a tendency to look at everything in a divided way. Anything, any object that exists in the mind is necessarily limited and hence divided. Divided from the rest of existence. One fundamental distinction that exists in the mind is the distinction between the universe and the self. That is what is also called as the ego. I am separate from the universe. So the mind starts with this, that I am separate from the universe. When you are starting with this proposition, obviously you will say that the knowledge of universe is different from the knowledge of the self. Because all the time you are anyway feeling that you are separate from the universe. The universe is one thing and you are another thing. You say that you came into this universe at the time of death, of birth, and that you will go away from the universe at the time of death. So the universe and you are distinct. If the universe and you are distinct, then knowledge of the universe and knowledge of you, which is the self, will also be taken as distinct and separate. This separation is represented by Vidya and Avidya. When you look outwards into the universe, and when I say outwards, that outwards is within quotes. That outwards is only the sensual perception of the mind. The eyes are looking outwards. So when you look outwards into the universe, you gain knowledge, and you call that knowledge as Avidya. And then you look inwards again within quotes, then you look inwards, and you come to see the self. And this knowledge, this perception, whatever you have about the self, you call that as Vidya. And you keep treating these two as different. Please understand. You keep feeling, you keep maintaining that the universe is different from you. So you say, all right, well, something is happening in the universe, and because the universe is separate and different from me, so I can change something in the universe without changing anything in me. Because Vidya is one field and Avidya is another. So something can be changed out there without changing anything in here. And that is how mankind has proceeded. Wanting to change something within, it disregards what is happening outside. And wanting to change something out there, it totally forgets that the out there is the same as, is dependent on, is organically linked to what is in here. The rishis will have none of it. They know better than this distinction. So they give us a wonderful sutra. They say, only when you know these two together, that you have known something. Now that is easier to hear. In fact, it is deceptively easy to hear. Because the very definition of knowledge lies in division. To know that hillside and the mind together is to stand separate from both of them. The study of the hillside is the study of all universal material objects. We are calling that as Avidya. The study of the mind is the study of the subject, the mind. We are calling that as Vidya. And we have been thinking that these two are separate. That the subject and the object, that the world and the mind are separate. But the Rishi is saying, know them together. Know the subject and the object, the world and the mind together. See that what is happening outside is just a representation, an image of what is happening inside. Nothing could have happened outside without its parallel, without its twin event happening inside. Getting it? So they are saying, know both of them together, for they are twins, for they are mirror images. And when you know the subject and the object together, then you cannot be the subject, and surely you cannot be the object either. That is called witnessing. That is called standing at a distance from the duality of the subject and object. Are you getting it? Do we see what is meant by seeing them together? To see them together is to see them as one. Is to see that they are just two sides of the same coin. They are just mirror images of each other. Whole of human suffering lies in seeing his conditions as something different from his mind. Don't we say that? I am a good man. It's just that the conditions are right now not favorable. Or that I am brilliant, benign, compassionate. But my situations have forced me to act cruelly. Don't we say all that? Don't we feel that the change in our external situations can be called as progress? And is that progress not the goal of so much of civilization? All that happens out of the same mistake. The mistake is that the outer is different from the inner. That a different universe exists outside my skin and a different universe exists inside my skull cap. That the body is the dividing line. Yes? There are some who follow the path of material progress. They say, I can change the outer. I remaining the same, I want to change the outer. There are some who follow the path of meditation. They say the inner is everything. And they pay no attention to the facts of their life, for the facts are all outer. They have to be seen with the senses. But they are busy with meditations, believing that everything is inside. They do not know that whatever they see inside is not an independent or real entity at all. It is all coming from the outside. Borrowed, taken in, absorbed, tutored, programmed. So in a very simple statement, something very profound is communicated. Look at them together and see that they are one. When you see that they are one, then you are somebody distinct from both of them. Now that takes us to the next part, which says that you get freedom from death on knowing the world. You get freedom from death through Avidya, and you gain immortality through Vidya. What is all that? Let's understand. How have humans thought of death? What is our conception of death? Let's look at the various myths and representations around death.
finishing ego.
So Yamraj comes from somewhere. Yamraj comes from somewhere riding his animal. And in various cultures, death is depicted in various forms, but that form is never our own. It is some alien form. It is somebody from outside. From where? From somewhere in the universe, obviously. So where does death reside? Where does death reside? Somewhere out there. Where does death reside? Somewhere out there. Don't we say death will come? Or do we ever say that death will arise from within me? Do we ever say that? Even the phrases that we use, look at our language, mean like waiting for death. Right? For us, death exists in the universe. It is an enemy that is lurking around somewhere, not within. We feel we are life, and out there somewhere is death. So the universe is a hostile place because the universe is sending death to life. We are always at odds with the universe. We are living beings, we are life, and the universe has elements that can kill this life. The universe can fire death at us at any moment. Don't you feel that way? So it is our then duty to protect ourselves from the universe. We always then have a ring of defense ready. The Rishi is saying, once you know the universe, now you have freedom from death. Having known the falseness of what you thought to be the universe, you also come to know the falseness of all that you think belongs to the universe. Once the universe goes down, once the universe is no more substantial for you, death too can be no more substantial. A false universe can only send a false death to you. It is only when you believe in the veracity of the universe that you also believe that you can die. With the universe gone, death too goes away. Are you getting it? With the universe gone, by the way, birth too goes away. No universe, then where were you born? Getting this? The universe can go away only when you have studied the universe properly. The universe can go away only when you have really known the universe, the nature of the universe. Knowing the nature of the universe is called Avidya. And knowing the universe fully obviously involves knowing the self fully as well. Know the universe fully, know the self fully, and the universe will drop. All the meanings, all the temptations, all the bondages, all the pleasures and pains, they all will drop. And with them you will find that the great fear of death too has dropped. Knowing the universe is freedom from universe, which is in turn freedom from death. Getting it? To know the mind as the projector of the universe is the field of Vidya. The universe does not come to inquire into you. The mind goes to inquire into the universe. So while the mind and the universe are one, if one of them has to be called the basis of the other, mind will have to be called the basis of universe. While they are the two ends of duality, please remember that the one that you call as yourself identifies with only one end of that duality, and that one end is not the universe. That one end is the self. Please understand. The self and the universe might be two ends of duality. For sure they are. But what do you consider yourself to be? The self or the universe? So, out of these two ends, with which end have you identified yourself? The self. Right? So, as far as you are concerned, for you, the self is the one that gives rise to the universe, because the self comes first. It is the self that goes to inquire into the universe. It is the self that wants to know anything. Are you getting it? The universe drops. The self that gives rise to the universe, that too drops along with the universe, and that is the field of Vidya. And with this gone, nothing remains at all. This nothing remaining has been called as immortality. Nothing remaining. Firstly, there was fear of death. Then there was no fear of death. And now there is not even no fear. Firstly, I thought of whatever I saw as true. Then I thought of it as false. Now I am calling it not even false. You see, complete freedom from something comes only when you are free from its opposite as well. Are you getting it? Complete freedom from something comes from being free of the need to negate that thing. The universe offered death and birth. Knowing the universe offered no death. But no death is still one step behind immortality. Because in saying no death, you have given birth to something more. You have given birth to no death. If death was a concept, that needed to be dropped. Then it has not been fully dropped. It has been substituted with another concept called no death. Immortality is freedom from both death and no death. Freedom from just death is freedom from birth and death. And it is very easy to say that, for me there is no birth and no death. So many religious scriptures say that you are the one who can neither be born and nor can you die. And the ego can co-opt this statement. It is so easy for one to say that no birth or death for me. But be careful. See what have you done. Earlier you used to say that you are the one who would die. And now you are saying that you are the one who would not die. Another birth has taken place. Another cycle of duality has started. Immortality goes one step beyond freedom from death. It is freedom from death. It is freedom from death and freedom from no death. It is total freedom. It cannot even be called freedom, because freedom too would become another concept. That is what happens when you go to the depths of the mind. That is when you hit that which is beyond all description and who is also not beyond all description, who is conceivable and inconceivable together. Whatever you say about that would be wrong, and yet you cannot say that you cannot say anything about that. That is what happens when you go to the utter depths of the mind. Going to the utter depths of the mind is the field of Vidya. But remember that which you may call as Atman or Brahman is not the fruit of Vidya. If you have really gone into Vidya, Vidya and Avidya would happen together. And when these two happen together, as the sage has already advised, then both are dissolved together as well. Vidya does not take you to Brahma. That is another popular misconception. Kindly get rid of it. Vidya has to go away for only Brahma to remain. Brahma is immortality. Are you getting it? When you believed in the universe, then you also believed in a study of the universe. So a belief in the study of universe implies a belief in the universe. When the universe will drop, the study of the universe too will simultaneously drop. So with the universe gone, Avidya too has okay. With the universe gone, the Vidya too has gone. So with the mind gone, Vidya too has. No Vidya can hence take you to the truth. Because though Vidya is the study of the mind, but Vidya can only reveal to you the falseness of the mind. And if the mind is false, what have you been studying? If the mind is ultimately being shown up as non-existent, then are you studying the non-existent? So the entire field of Vidya too must drop as non-existent. Are you getting it? This is especially important for those who are seekers of spiritual knowledge. There are people who seek worldly knowledge. And then there are people who seek inner knowledge, spiritual knowledge. The materialist has to drop the material. The spiritualist has to drop the spiritual. And these two must happen together. When these two happen together, nothing is left to happen. Is this clear? These set of verses dealing with Vidya and Avidya, and finally talking of freedom from death and immortality, are part of the small Upanishad. And these are some of the most befuddling, intriguing verses in the whole Upanishadic literature. These have to be very carefully understood. If it is not clear, we will go more into it. Because the rishis had a special knack to express the most intricate of subjects in the briefest of words. What looks like just 2 or 3 verses actually contains the essence of all wisdom. Yes.
The study of the mind, just knowing how my mind functions, what my tendencies are, that is not good.
You see, when we start studying the mind, it is a great temptation to close your eyes and introspect. And this introspection is severe nonsense. Study of the mind cannot happen without parallelly studying the universe. How will you know that you are conditioned unless you first see that the outer and the inner are one? Hence it is quite likely that what I call as the inner has been borrowed from outside. But many people fall into this trap. They say, let me close my eyes and sit in meditation, and that will reveal divine knowledge to me. The rishis are warning us. They are saying, no. There are those who make the mistake of only looking outwards, and there are those who make the bigger mistake of only looking. But rare is the one who sees the outer and the inner together and then sees that they are the same, one. You see, this distinction between outer and inner has been so pronounced in our culture, civilization, polity, society, everything. The conqueror of the world is called the king. The conqueror of the mind is called the saint. And the king and the saint are taken as polar opposites. Are they not? You can either be a householder or you can be a spiritual seeker. The marketplace has to be different from the temple. All of this is the dividing line between the outer and the inner. there is nothing that you are seeing around you that is not a representation of something within you. Will you remember this? This grass represents something within you. I represent something within you. This hillside represents something within you. The outer and the inner are one, and the distinction is false. The body is the distinction. You say outside the body lies the external, and inside the body lies the internal. Inside the body or inside the mind or brain or whatever. In fact, that is also the mind-brain debate. Whether the mind lies inside the brain or the brain lies inside the mind. This debate is meaningful only as long as you believe that the outer and the inner are separate. So does that mean I am not walking upon the ground, I am walking upon my mind? Yes, you are walking in your mind. So do I exist in the universe or does the universe exist in me? Well, the universe exists in you. Such a large universe exists in me. Yes, it does. That is why your mind is so heavy. So if you can empty your mind of the universe, you'd feel light. Yes, sure. I too am trying for that. I want my mind to be free of the universe. Yes, that would be nice. But let me tell you something additional. When your mind would be free of the universe, it would be free of itself as well. The universe gone, mind too would be gone. Now that is dangerous. I don't want that. Then you can continue to move around with the universe in your mind. Now you know. Why it is dangerous to enter the Ganga river. Do you know which part in the body sinks? It is so heavy.
Can we say that there is nothing called a light mind? It's light.
You can say that.
It is a mind as long as it is heavy.
Yes.
Lightness is felt in the absence of the mind.
Yes, of course. But that makes you feel so uncomfortable, doesn't it? When you have a load on the mind, it also gives you a purpose to live. It gives you a certain tautness, a direction, something to do, something to take care of. You wake up in the morning and you say, oh my God, I'm so occupied, so much to do. And now you are relieved of the burden to respond to this day. It may rain. It may shine. But your schedule is now already decided. Come what may, I will, like a programmed robot, do what is upon my mind. Now, if you wake up and you don't have a ready-made schedule with you, then it is a big trouble. Now you have to respond afresh to the day. Now you have to be creative. It's a threat. So lightness is threatening when it comes. That's why we don't let it come.
In the word enlightenment, there is light there.
Sir, so what does it mean to see the mind and the universe simultaneously? What is this seeing about?
This seeing is simply seeing that your usual patterns of functioning and thinking do not make sense. They are all false. You say, I love you to somebody, and it is kind of ridiculous to say that, because even this expression of love is so pre-programmed, so deterministic. You feel as if the expression is arising from somewhere within, as if it is an inner call. And you do not realize that it is a universal thing, that the elements have come together to make you feel as if you are in love. You do not realize that what you call as the external society has given you a particular definition of love, and because what you experience right now as happening is confirming to that definition, so you're calling your feeling as love. And what's worse, you do not realize that the experiencer who is experiencing love is himself a product of the previous experiences which have all come from the outside. You getting it? Now our normal mode of functioning does not make any sense. This is what is meant by seeing the outer and the inner together. And when this happens, when this breakdown happens, then this breakdown is accompanied by the revelation of the holy. With these two, falseness is gone. Something else comes about. That something else is neither outer nor inner, neither here nor there, or both here and there. It defies your language, it defies your mind, it defies your distinctions. Yes, that sky that you are watching is within you. Surely, don't worry.
Sir, when they said that who am I? So is the same thing that when I things becomes very strong, then I will come out to be something external only.
You see, Devesh, when I am talking to beginners, then it is a good tactic to tell them that what you consider as internal is something external. That is easier to understand. That can be the first step. So I put it that way. That all your mind stuff is socially borrowed or biologically conditioned. I put it that way. To express it the other way round will make it more difficult for the audience to understand. I never say right in the beginning that the universe is your projection. Otherwise, it will be almost impossible to understand. They will say, sir, you are saying that I am made up of influences from outside. This much I can understand. Because this is easy to gather that the TV is affecting me, parents, society, literature, education, religion, all of them are affecting me. This is easy to gather. But it is so very difficult to gather that this whole universe has been projected out by me. I never say that. So do not say that the I is external, because again you are talking of the distinction between internal and external. Just say that wherever there is the distinction between internal and external, this false distinction shows up as an I. There is nothing, and that nothing is fakely divided into two. This fake division is called the I. There is neither internal nor external, but we create both. This fake creation is called the I. I is not internal. It is to school kids that I keep saying that I is internal, I is internal. So kindly free your I from the external. It is to school kids that I keep saying that your individuality is something within you. There is nothing called within. Just as there is nothing called without, similarly there is nothing called within. Nothing is within you. Your I is not within you. When you are nothing, how can there be nothing inside? How can there be something inside nothing? What I am speaking right now to you is a more advanced enunciation of the I. I is that falseness which leads to the simultaneous apparition of the internal and the external. That is the I. The ego lives not within your mind, because there is nothing called your mind. The ego is that which creates you and the universe together and as separate entities from nowhere. Will you remember this? The ego is that which creates you and the universe together and as separate entities and from nowhere. That is the ego. The ego is not your property. The ego does not live in your mind. But this is a confusing statement. This is difficult to appreciate. So I hope you are listening to it with all the meditativeness possible. Otherwise, it will be very difficult.
Sir, when they said that who am I? So it's the same thing that when I things becomes very strong, then I will come out to be something external only.
You see, Devesh, when I am talking to beginners, then it is a good tactic to tell them that what you consider as internal is something external. That is easier to understand. That can be the first step. So I put it that way. That all your mind stuff is socially borrowed or biologically conditioned. I put it that way. To express it the other way round will make it more difficult for the audience to understand. I never say right in the beginning that the universe is your projection. Otherwise, it will be almost impossible to understand. They will say, sir, you are saying that I am made up of influences from outside. This much I can understand. Because this is easier to gather that the TV is affecting me, parents, society, literature, education, religion, all of them are affecting me. This is easy to gather. But it is so very difficult to gather that this whole universe has been projected out by me. I never say that. So do not say that the I is external. Because again you are talking of the distinction between internal and external. Just say that wherever there is the distinction between internal and external, this false distinction shows up as an I. There is nothing. And that nothing is fakely divided into two. This fake division is called the I. There is neither internal nor external, but we create both. This fake creation is called the I. I is not internal. It is to school kids that I keep saying that I is internal, I is internal. So kindly free your I from the external. It is to school kids that I keep saying that your individuality is something within you. There is nothing called within. Just as there is nothing called without, similarly there is nothing called within. Nothing is within you. Your I is not within you. When you are nothing, how can there be nothing inside? How can there be something inside nothing? What I am speaking right now to you is a more advanced enunciation of the I. I is that falseness which leads to the simultaneous apparition of the internal and the external. That is the I. The ego lives not within your mind, because there is nothing called your mind. The ego is that which creates you and the universe together and as separate entities from nowhere. Will you remember this? The ego is that which creates you and the universe together and as separate entities and from nowhere. That is the ego. The ego is not your property. The ego does not live in your mind. But this is a confusing statement. This is difficult to appreciate. So I hope you are listening to it with all the meditativeness possible. Otherwise, it will be very difficult.
The question that I had wanted to ask earlier was, can you, it's like you can rationally explain how the ego gets conditioned from external sources, you can say the media, etc., etc. Can you also rationally explain this thing, that the star in the sky is inside?
Of course, logically that can be explained. Do something to your head and the star will disappear, or can magnify. Or drink a little whiskey and you will start seeing stars in daylight. So of course, if you change the internal, the external changes. Does that not happen? So some hints can be given, some rational hints, but it cannot be appreciated in its total depth using rational examples. Rational examples can serve as little pointers. Can't they? If I give you a little dopamine shot, you will be so full of pleasure, smiling, hugging everybody, feeling full of gratitude towards existence, and that will sound so spiritual, and it is just dopamine. So the internal has changed external. Now the world is full of flowers, and a shot of another chemical can be given, and you will pass into depression. So the external has changed. The world is now a graveyard, a totally gloomy place. Huh? These are rational pointers. By no stretch am I claiming that these are explanations, that this is the cause and effect narrative. No, I am not saying that. But I am saying that in case you are too fond of those kind of examples, here they are.
Then what is this traditional distinction between Atma and Paramatma?
There is no distinction. It is like the distinction between Prashant and Sri Prashant. When you want to address the Atman with a little bit of respect, then you call it Param Atman. That does not mean that there is a separate Param Atman. It happens. Somebody can come to the Bodh Sthal, meet me, and then say, "Now where is Acharya Shri Prashant?" You are just a mere mortal. I want to meet Acharya Shri Prashant. So I'll have to retire to some hidden room and then re-emerge with a lot of saffron on me. And now Paramatma has come. Atma is gone. All this thing about Atma merging into Paramatma and such thing, sheer nonsense. The mind goes into the Atman, and that's all. There are only these two and nothing else. All that which appears is the mind. All that which is Atman. And besides these two, if you talk of a third, that is heresy. If you are really a spiritual one, then there can be no third word in your lexicon. There is the mind and there is the Atman. That's all. Finished. What is the mind? All this, all that, all within, all without, all pairs of opposites. All that you can think of, all that appears and all that does not appear. All that is the mind. And what is the Atman? All that is. Full stop. Do not talk of any third entity.
So some saints do the worship of Saguna form of bhakti. I mean, so does that mean that God has a form? I mean, like, so there is a one Saguna.
See, they are just confessing that body identification is too strong in them. The body has characteristics, guna. Prakriti has guna. The body is Prakriti. So because you are so severely body identified, whatever you will look at will be as per you and hence bodily. So they worship a bodily form of truth. That is what is called as worshipping the Saguna Brahma. So they are being honest, just being honest. I know nothing except material. I know no more than the body. So how can I just start worshipping the Nirakar, the Nirgun?
Sir, Raman Maharishi has always pointed that we actually sort of believe that we are the mind and we are its qualities and everything. Right now also you pointed out that when you stop believing in this, then it goes. But the whole thing doesn't really strike that it is that easy, that stop believing and it is done. Either I'm not getting it, that, or is it that simple that it's just my belief that I have to get?
It is just that even this question that you are asking is not honest enough. You are asking this question in the same way, with the same mind, that is busy asking so many other questions. Are you not the one who keeps asking from where entertainment would come, from where security would come, from where sex would come? How is it possible to be honest and parallelly ask both of these questions? If I'm honest, can I parallelly ask, how do I go left and how do I go right? If I'm asking both these together, then it means I mean neither of them, or I do not know where to go, or I am just collecting intellectual knowledge. The one who is not just asking for the sake of knowledge, but actually means to know, but actually intends to live what he is going to now learn, will ask only one question. His questions will never change. He will keep asking and asking a million times, maybe in different forms, maybe on different occasions, maybe to different people. But the question's essence will remain the same. He'll be asking, how do I go right? How do I go right? How do I go right? You observe yourself. Right now you are asking, how do I go left? Then you will ask, how do I climb upstairs? Then you will ask, how can I dig a tunnel? See how the intent of your curiosity keeps fluctuating. Be a little honest. Be determined that you really, really want to know. Even a child knows this trick. He wants a chocolate, and somebody offers him a toffee. He says, no, where is the chocolate? And then somebody offers him a toy, and he is still saying, no, where is the chocolate? And then somebody offers him a new pair of shoes, and he is insisting, chocolate. And then some cousin comes and gives him a hug. And the hug is quite warm. And after the hug he says, this was all right, but chocolate? Yes? When you will ask this question with that same insistence and sincerity, then you will know. You are the type of kid who asks a chocolate and is very content with a pair of slippers. You are the kind of mind who goes to search for somebody but is very content on finding her friend. Have a one-pointed inquiry. I do not deny that at this moment, most of us are sincere in their own eyes. We are trying to listen. But would you be listening a week later? Would you be listening a couple of hours later? That is what is the distinction between an accidental seeker and a true seeker. An accidental seeker can be made to listen through a foreign influence. It is the influence of this beautiful environment, my presence, that you might be listening right now. But would you be listening after I am gone? The true seeker listens under all conditions because his seeking is his own. The accidental seeker listens only when made to listen. Only when the situations are favorable. As long as the situations are favorable, you look towards me, you try to look towards the truth. And whenever the situations offer you a little slack, then you run away. Then you do all kinds of things that you cannot do in front of me. Is that a mark of a real seeker?
Sir, as you told that whatever appears is a projection of mind. So, sir, so if my mind is not projecting the things which are doubtful or which are causing conflict, that means mind is ill. So that means that if mind is healthy, then it will only project
Conflicts.
not conflicts. If mind is healthy, then it will only present truth and that.
Yes, and if you're living in falseness, it will make you uncomfortable. Living uncomfortably is often a sign of health calling from within. Artists, poets, there are numerous examples of them not being able to live relaxed lives. Many of them commit suicide. Many of them go mad. It is because they are sensing that something is wrong. Something is wrong in the way one construes the universe, one accounts for reality. They are sensing that. But at the same time, they do not know whether anything lies beyond this duality. It is too scary, Drop the outside, drop the inside, and left with what? So you better commit suicide then.
Because actually mind cannot project the truth.
It's comical, yes. It's obviously that the truth is never inside, outside. All these spatial or temporal relationships are all vanished. But we cannot think, speak, feel without that.
Without that, yes.
This is seems
Yes,
like a paradox.
yeah,
Eh?
yeah.
How to get out of this ring?
Yes, silence is the answer. Language cannot help.
asked at the beginning that what does naming do? So just as we were going to the Ganges, we looked at that notice board which said that it is at rest, the place. So one of the reasons also is that the society has adopted this way of naming things because it is assumed and it is in fact a valid assumption that we all are unintelligent and dumb. And since things have to function, I mean, had that thing not been there, maybe first would have, went in and known. And we won't be alert, inquisitive enough to find out all the time.
You see, the river has been the same, and this is the 23rd camp, probably the 10th in Shivpuri. We have managed 10 without the aid of such science. So that assumption that human beings need the aid of such boards, and that which you said that we are basically dull and unintelligent, is not necessarily true. We have survived 10 camps, have we not? And you have been there at least in half of them.
Just a vague imagination. It would be a nice.
You could have put it the other way as well. Because the society does all kinds of these things. That is why today you could not take a dip in the Ganges.
Ganges is named as holy, so that's why it's so dirty.
The Ganges is the same, but the name today has changed. The name before was nothing. There was no name. This time a name has come. The name is danger. So the coming of the name spoiled all the fun. Why can't you look at it that way? Or is it a new river this time which is more dangerous? Is it the monsoon time when the river is swelling? Is it a particularly dangerous time to enter the river? Have we never been here before in winters?
We've been at the same place.
Same place and in the same month.
Same place.
Exactly the same place.
We were doing backflips in this last time. This was the same. That area was very
You remember those pics where kids are coming, running and jumping into the river? That's exactly the same place where you were today. But that was today so very dangerous because the name danger had come.
The first time I want to express this, the naming thing like struck me was when I was learning music. So there are basically two kinds of music teachers. So one is they tell you this is C, this is D. They'll make you memorize the chord shapes and they'll tell you. The other kind of the teacher is who would each time when you would listen the song. So for instance, there is song X. So the teacher would tell you the song X has A, B and C chords, and then you would simply play by memory, by naming. The other kind of teacher is who would tell you to find out, to play the song and find out which chord is there. The naming certainly makes things easy, and it gives you the excuse to not to be alert.
Easy in what sense? What is made easy?
The work.
What is that work? What kind of work can be made easy by naming? Don't call it the work. What kind of work can be made easy by naming?
That which requires
Repetition. And hence is basically not creative.
no naming makes it repetitive and uncreative, but the work in the first place is
Work in the first place. But once you have named it, then you have named it for somebody else. So it is now not in the first place. Now it is for somebody else. It's a repetition. Second time, third time, fourth time. The name is now a tradition, a flow. Right? So naming makes it only easier to repeat. Not to really create. Not to be original. When it comes for the first time, does it have a name? If it is fresh, will it have a name? So your argument is valid in its place. Naming does make a lot of work so very easy, but don't forget the quality of work that it makes easy. A lot of things make a lot of works easy, a lot of very, very sordid things. But a sordid act can only make sordid work easier, not real work. You see, look at the way we are listening to all this right now. Most of us, right after this session, will again get back to our same old universe, replete with naming, replete with our habits, replete with our old patterns. And here I am sitting on this chair saying to you that naming is disastrous. And you are coolly listening to this. Do you know why you are so cool about it? Because you are not taking anything seriously at all. Because you fully well know that whatever might be said at this moment, you are sure that you will continue in your old ways. Had you had any intention of really knowing and living as per the knowing, then you would have revolted by now. You would have said, if naming is such an evil, then I want to know how to live. But you're coolly listening. Oh, okay, the universe is false. Right, the universe is false. Get me another bowl of corn. The universe is false. But I need a little more food. Yes, attachments are disastrous. Wifey, come home a little early today. Coolly we are listening, right? It's just a camp. It's just a camp. And this is just a talk. And some of us might be veterans here who have been through several such talks. So this is just another talk. Why should I let it disturb me? Why should I let it unsettle my ways? Do you know what we have talked of just now in the last 1 hour? We have said, no, all this is not. You are not. Your front is not, your behind is not. Your head is not, your ass is not. That's what we have said. And you are so cool about it. Of course. My head is not. My head is not. Of course.
In some Zen monasteries, centuries ago, the teachers, the masters, they beat the students. Or, Gurdjieff, what he has done with his students, to take seriously what he was talking about.
And that's why he had very few students, you see.
Yes.
In fact, he wanted very few students, right?
Yes.
But the thing is that the ones he would turn away are also the ones who are the most in need of his education. I do not know whether I can turn away anybody or be selective about the people I talk to. Of course, you are a very good speaker. Yeah, you said all the right things. Yes, attachment is quite bad. Daughter, where are you?
Yes.
Of course, the world is false. Is the talk over? May I now look at all my missed calls? The universe is false, but the missed calls are real.